there is one argument that I never could get past. I would wrestle with apostolic succession, with the problems of sola scriptura, with the arguments of the truth claims about the Catholic Church, the historicity, all of this. But one argument really just nagged at me for a long time. And actually, I've used this argument with Protestant friends. Yesterday, I was talking to a Protestant pastor who I used this really, I don't know if it's an argument so much as it is a story or a thought. And I used this dilemma to just ask him this question, and he told me he frankly has no answer for it. He's thought about it, and he just doesn't know what to do with it. I want to give you this thought that really did a lot of the legwork in bringing me into the Catholic Church. Because if you ask a Protestant, maybe one that is kind of on the fence, they agree that the Catholic Church has a lot of pull or sway, and they like a lot of the things that they see, but most often those people that are kind of on the fence, they're going to say similar things. The things that are holding them back are perhaps that there are too many scandals in the Catholic Church. Too many popes throughout our history have been unfaithful or have scandalized them. There's been too many corrupt priests in the priesthood. And scandal cuts deep. It's very difficult to deal with. And especially whenever you have this Protestant paradigm. And the Protestant paradigm is that it is their duty to find the church, to find the pastor that most lines up with their private interpretation of what the scriptures are saying. So they will very quickly just bounce to the next church if they believe that church is more faithful to what they believe the Bible is teaching. And why do they do that? Well, they see problems with what some pastor is saying or what some church is doing. Any sort of scandal, and they're quick to leave and to go somewhere else. And they'll just bounce all over the place. So here's the question. Did God ever, in the Old Testament, at any point, instruct anyone or any of his faithful people to abandon his covenant because of unfaithfulness? We have the story of Moses and Aaron. Moses is on Mount Sinai. And Aaron, when Moses comes down with the Ten Commandments, what is Aaron doing? The priest that is supposed to be the spiritual leader of all of the people of Israel, he has made and fashioned a golden calf, an idol, and he's leading them in worship of that calf, of that idol. Did God abandon the priesthood immediately? Did he tell them, okay, we're going to restart, and anybody that's faithful, anybody who refused to bow down and refused to worship this golden calf, we're going to start something different and let the golden calf worshipers continue in their religion, and we're going to start a new church? No, he doesn't do that. You fast forward, and you have Nadab and Abihu. These are priestly sons of Aaron, that same priest that was the brother of Moses. His sons, Nadab and Abihu, were offering strange fire, and God strikes them dead there at the temple as they're offering their sacrifice. We have Eli's sons in the tabernacle that are sleeping with prostitutes, basically, in the temple worship of God. These are the priests that are offering sacrifice on behalf of Yahweh. And when you fast forward even more, you see that it is a common thread throughout the Old Testament prophets that they are condemning unfaithful, godless, pagan activities that are being participated in by who? The priests, by the priesthood, those who are supposed to be leading God's people. And nowhere in the Old Testament, nowhere in all of those books does any prophet, does God give any direction to anyone saying, we need to start a different priesthood? No, he maintains that the Levitical priesthood, that is the method that he is going to work through. And in spite of their faithlessness, God's people are left to stick it out, pray, remain faithful where they are, and trust that God is going to take care of the faithlessness that is around them with their spiritual leaders. And yes, the church throughout our 2,000 years of history has had sinful, horribly sinful priests, cardinals, bishops, and popes. We've had a pope that had illegitimate children. We've had popes that have done horrible atrocities that have caused scandal in the church. And yet, when we analyze how God worked with his church, with his people, his assembly, which is what the word church means, how he worked with them in the Old Testament through all of the sinfulness, through all of the debauchery, through all of the even paganism that they had, he never instructs them to leave to make their own thing. He never instructs them to go have a reformation. This is never even a concept that any of the prophets of God that they rise up and they preach God's word faithfully. None of the prophets ever are like, okay, we're going to have a reformation and we got to leave these priests. We got to go start making our sacrifice on another mountain to Yahweh. We're going to worship the same God but in a different place. No, they don't leave that institution that God started. They preached against it, they talked against it, but they never leave. They never leave. And the sinfulness that we can see throughout the last 2,000 years of Catholic church history pales in comparison to what we find in the Old Testament. One issue that we run into with not reformation, but revolution, which is what it actually is, whenever you leave, is that you can never build anything. This is what we find with Reformed or Protestant Christianity. They can never build anything. Every time that a Protestant denomination reaches 50 years, they schism. And the liberals schism, or usually it's the conservatives that are schisming from the liberals, and they just leave everything that they've built, the beautiful churches, and they leave it to the progressives that are in their midst because they can't stand staying with them. They can't abide faithfully and have a reformation from the inside. They have to revolt and rebel and go somewhere else. Why are all of these very conservative Protestant, Presbyterian, and Protestant Baptist churches less than 10, 20 years old? A really old conservative church in America might be 50 years old. It's because they schism every 50 years. Why? Because they cannot abide faithfully. They have to schism. And this mentality of constant schism. The first time a pastor says something that a Protestant doesn't agree with, they go and find another church. They can't handle it. So this is why it's so difficult for a Protestant to hear something that the Pope says that is scandalous to them. Whether he's blessing a block of ice or something like that. Or some priest is caught doing something, in abuse or something that he shouldn't have been doing. It's so scandalous for them because they cannot comprehend staying somewhere with something that they disagree with. Most Protestants go to a church and they don't disagree with anything that is very important with their pastor. The second that they do, they go somewhere else. You cannot build anything that way. You can't build anything that way. You will continually build a church and then it'll schism and you'll start something new. The PCA celebrated 50 years, but a year or two before their 50th anniversary, I remember there being lots of talk about splitting because there was, I don't want to get into all that, the details, but there were lots of fears that if they were even going to make it to 50 years without splitting, you cannot build anything that way. How has the Catholic Church survived for over 2,000 years? It's survived because Christians have not thought this way for 2,000 years. This is a very novel way of understanding what the church is, that you can just go somewhere else and make your own new thing. You can just have a reformation outside of the church, a revolution, and make a new one. No. The church didn't operate that way in the Old Testament, and the church does not operate that way in the New Testament. So maybe this is an argument that you can use with your Protestant friends. It's a great one just to, it's a seed that you can plant in the back of their mind that will, hopefully, if they're honest with things, it will gnaw at them and nag at them, and they'll realize, at least if they are going to remain Protestant, that they need to change their mindset so that they can actually build something, so that they can actually have something. I mean, you can ask any Protestant, are you even sure that your church is going to be standing, that your denomination will even exist when your children are raising their children? That's a legitimate question and concern. I want to be a part of a church that I know is going to be there for my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. It's going to last. That's what we have to offer in the Catholic Church. The church that was founded by Jesus Christ and the apostles and has stood the test of time for 2,000 years. We will have good popes. We will have popes that aren't as good. We'll have faithful priests, and we will have those that are not faithful. And yet Christ's church will stand.